Tonight, Anthony Albanese is negotiating his first steps in Australia's toughest job. As our 31st Prime Minister, he and his new government face enormous challenges. He says he'll make the country better for everyone. But considering 2/3 of the electorate didn't vote for Albo or the ALP, it's going to be a tough task. Federal politics never ceases to surprise, but last night's result was extraordinary. A short time ago, I spoke with Nine's chief political editor, Chris Yulman, for his take on this historic election. Chris, they say nice guys finish last, but in the end, the builder knocked over the bulldozer.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was bulldozed was the Liberal Party. And what we've seen is an epic change in politics. You know, they say that there are decades when nothing changes and weeks where everything changes, and everything changed last night. We'll be seeing the ramifications of this for years to come.
Anthony Albanese's rise from humble beginnings, we heard it repeatedly throughout the campaign. It's still a significant achievement though, isn't it?
This is a great story. This is a story of a man who did come from very humble backgrounds, from Housing Commission homes, to rise to be the Prime Minister of Australia. It is a great thing that we have a democracy that does that.
It says a lot about our great country that the son of a single mum who was a disability pensioner, who grew up in public housing down the road in Camperdown, can stand before you tonight as Australia's Prime Minister.
Let's pause for a moment too and think about what happened last night. A democracy is a place where governments lose power and go graciously, and that's what Scott Morrison did last night. He didn't claim the election was stolen. He didn't claim that he had his right taken away from him. He didn't try to call out the army to try and keep his government in place. He thanked the people of Australia for their decision. He said he respected it. He thanked his rival. He wished him well, and he left. And it's extraordinarily brutal for him and for his family and for the people around him. But this is a sign of an institution that's working, and it's rare around the world now, Sarah. You know that. You've travelled a lot. This is becoming a harder thing to do. And even in some of our great allies like the United States, look at the way the transition of power happened there, and that's deeply chilling. At least in Australia, this transition of power has been done gracefully.
Did Anthony Albanese win this election, or did Scott Morrison lose?
Scott Morrison lost it. And let's just have a look at what Anthony Albanese's campaign was when it stripped to its bare bones. It was a referendum on Scott Morrison. But that didn't just play out for the Labor Party, it played out for the Teal independents as well. They picked up that mood for change, and that's been really the big story of this. And I think the problem that the Labor Party has is that it didn't gather enough of the people to its own cause. It made the argument for change, but didn't make enough of an argument for people to come to the Labor Party. And what we've seen now is an epic decline in the primary votes of the two major parties, which will, behind the scenes, it's an ugly victory for the Labor Party, but it's a win, and they're going to take that. But behind the scenes, the hardheads will be thinking that the trajectory of the Labor Party is also bad.
That point you make, though, that people voted for change, but they didn't necessarily vote for Anthony Albanese. 2/3 of the population voted for someone else entirely.
Yeah, because there was no great agenda that Anthony Albanese was attracting that vote to. He decided to go small target, not making a big argument for change, but basically just a kind of evolution of the process. People didn't want evolution, they wanted revolution. They got their revolution, they didn't get it from the Labor Party. That presents Anthony Albanese with the problem now. You know, it depends on how this parliament settles, and it takes some time to see the entire shape of it. The interesting thing for him will be he makes the call for unity. He knows people want to hear it. Australia desperately needs it. I fear we might become more divided.
The Teal independents took some prize scalps last night in blue ribbon Liberal seats. What does that tell us about the independents themselves? Are they independent?
Well, there is a question mark over that because, of course, they were very well organised and very well financed by Simon Holmes, the Courts Group, and he said last night on our broadcast that he steps away now, he'll have no hand in that. I'll watch that with great interest because I think the need to tinker from people who do these sorts of things is very great indeed, and he'll want to have a hand in the way that this is shaped. So, yes, they have independence, but they certainly were financed and run in what looked like a centrally controlled operation. So how they behave over the next 3 years will be the measure of what they are.
What now for the Liberal Party? They've almost been consigned to the political wilderness. What is their identity?
That's a really good question, and it'll be forged in the fires of the internal machinations of the party, and the settlement in this will be brutal internally. And I think that this is a party that will spread out into the suburbs, into the regions. There are votes to be had. They're just not in the inner city. So the message the coalition will take out of this, who knows? But I'm betting at this stage that they won't be going left, they'll be going right.
The Liberal Party will take some rebuilding. Is Peter Dutton a shoo-in as the next leader?
If he gets into Parliament, I think he's in with a good show. There'll be other hands that will be in the mix. I think Angus Taylor will certainly put his hat in the ring, but whoever emerges from that is a more conservative leader. So don't go looking for the fact that the Liberal Party is going to get the message that there's some kind of progressive value for them, because a large chunk of what's left of their vote doesn't think that way.
I mean, politics is a brutal game, and certainly this election proved that.
Oh, absolutely, and none more brutal than watching some of those people go last night. And again, it's very brutal. Some people like to see other people lose and dance on their grave. But I think history will be kinder to people like Josh Frydenberg than it has been in the present.
Every parent wants more for the next generation than they had. My mother dreamt of a better life for me, and I hope that my journey in life inspires Australians to reach for the stars.
What sort of a Prime Minister will Anthony Albanese be? Is he up to it?
Hopefully better than he was a candidate, because he was a very ordinary candidate, and it took him a very long time to get his stride. I didn't think he got into it until the last week of the campaign. It says something about you if your vote actually improves in the week that you're off the campaign trail. So he will be now tested by fire, and if he thought the campaign was hard, well, try being Prime Minister. This is a job that will exact a price every single day. He says he finishes his campaign exhausted. Well, he's only just started the race. The hard part starts now. And he says he wants to unify the country. I think that's something that we desperately need. I fear that we're becoming more divided. So he might find saying it is easier than doing it, but I do wish him well with it, because the country desperately needs it.
Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.